One of my favourite parts of the country, the Scottish borders, and I'm on my way to the town of Melrose.
The borders has a real character and a personality in it, so when I got married here in Hoyt, they said to me, they said, "Are you from around here?" I said, "Yeah, I am from Edinburgh." They said, "Edinburgh's not the borders."
Yep, nothing gets past the locals, but you can't blame them for being proud of the place. After all, this was the home of one of our most famous novelists. It's Sir Walter Scott country. He's the one who wrote those timeless classics Ivanhoe and Rob Roy. And his home, Abottsford, has a great view. If you're looking out, that is. The building itself is what historians call knocking on a bit. And it's undergoing a complete renovation.
So, a programme about great British views, and I brought you to a building site. It's a magnificent building, sure enough. But why is it here? Well, take a look over there. Now that's a view.
And nothing gets past me either. This is definitely a view, and you can see why Sir Walter Scott chose to live here. The scenery's amazing. Now the challenge is to get the house looking as good. It's a full-time project, lasting nearly 2 years. But underneath all this is the home of a VIP. And with some TLC and the odd JCB, it will look FAB, as Sir Walter himself would have said. Probably. To find out more, I'm going to talk to the project manager, Jason Dyer. But first, I'll do my famous impersonation of a builder. That's how they walk, isn't it?
Walking the plank here, Jason. So Abottsford is a wonderful place, and Sir Walter Scott had a very special place in the history of the borders. Tell us a bit about the house and the man.
Yes, he did. I mean, he really loved the borders, and his family came from here. And he was inspired to write his novels from the stories that his grandfather told him when he came down here to recuperate from polio in his childhood. And I think that's when he really set himself on the idea as a young child, really, that he was going to live here one day and build a house here in the borders. And when he came upon this location, I think he thought it was the ideal location to build Abottsford, which is really the symbol of his mind. And this is the outpouring of his mind. So you see the man's imagination in this building.
Abottsford, and that literally, this is where the monks would cross to get to Melrose Abbey.
Just down there is the ford that they used to cross on the way to Melrose.
So that's Abbots who forded the river. Abottsford. See what they did there? Well, Dun Roaming was already taken.
And because he was so into history, that would have really grabbed him to have that romantic setting for this house.
Well, that was the thing, was a historical novelist, so he took history, Rob Roy,
yeah.
But mostly his poetry was inspired here as well, wasn't it?
It was. I mean, his most famous poem, Marmion, is set all around the borders, from St Mary's Lock through to Melrose, through to St Boswell's, and he really brings this area alive. And it's an amazingly beautiful part of the world, and I think he was really in love with it.
And of course, it was so handy for the A7.
And this landscape where he lived and he worked so much of his life, I mean, it is, we talk about it as being a romantic landscape. What is it about it, do you think, that's so special?
I think it's the lushness of it. It's a very green and it's a very hilly landscape, but it's a landscape of views as well, and I think that's really something that inspired him, the views that you could get as you came around any corner in the borders.
And he knew a good view when he saw one.
He did, and you know, one of the more famous views that he loved was Scott's View, where you could see right down the valley to the Eildon Hills. And there's a lovely story about when he died. The horses were so familiar with stopping there that they stopped his funeral cortege because they knew he would want to see the view, which is quite sad.
So he put his house here. He built this house, did he?
He did, yes. This was all his own creation. He actually had input into every single design element in the building. So every shutter, every slate. He started in 1811 and he completed it in 1824.
Well, he hasn't. He's still got to finish.
I know, we've got
builders. They're just so slow. Started in 1811. Look, they just got up to the roof.
One too many tea breaks?
No. But this is a hefty restoration project.
It is. It's an £11.68 million restoration that's going on site here at the moment.
And when it's finished, it'll be £11.68 million well spent. But Jason's favourite view from Abottsford is absolutely free.